All right, and we are live with Anand Chaturvedi. He's CEO and founder at CareFy.ai. CareFy.ai, that is. He's a pioneering lean care coach. He's an author as well. So, Care Manifesto, transforming long-term care with AI and lean care. He's also board at American Care Association and let's speak at UNWEF. And yeah, he's done 30% revenue boost for 150%, 150 plus businesses. We're going to double click on that and find out why. Bookright GPT is presenting this podcast. If you want your own book written with AI through your LinkedIn post or content that you feed it, you can go to bookrightgpt.com. The first credit is on me. Anand, welcome to the pod. Tell me a bit more about yourself, your business, and what you're up to nowadays.
Thank you, Charles. Thanks for having me on your show. Uh, I have founded and I run a company called CaryFy. AI is essentially a long-term care automation platform, and our customers are business owners who provide long-term care both to seniors as well as to children. And we are based in Georgia.
Right. Why did you started that specifically? Why have you gone in that niche?
So my background was from corporate strategy and marketing. And I spent a good number of years working for a company called Bobcat, which is a construction equipment company. And one of the things that I have learned and I preached around the world was the notion of be your own boss, BYOB. And that was a time before, you know, I thought about making a switch to a completely different industry vertical, which was healthcare. So after spending nearly 15, 17 years in the corporate world, I decided to open a non-profit for education for diabetes prevention. And as I was doing that around the globe, I learned that the biggest challenge in healthcare is not in the clinics or in the hospitals, it's actually at home. And if you think deeply about it, you will find that most of the people that you love or who are in your family, their struggles with healthcare are at their home. And as I started digging it, I found that the entrepreneurs who are providing home care are also their own boss. So I started to connect the dots, what I have learned from my days at Bobcat, as well as my passion for healthcare. I thought that the best way I can utilize my talent would be to build something which is completely new, completely grounds up, serving the entrepreneurs who are in the home healthcare space so that we can improve the quality of life of our seniors and children who are receiving this care.
And why the nonprofit model? Why not the social startup type of model in which you're getting profits, you're getting paid while making an impact?
So CaryFy, just to make this point clear, is not a non-profit. CaryFy is a for-profit enterprise, but my background is from non-profit because I still support our non-profit as a separate entity. But my passion for healthcare actually started while I was founding and running a non-profit several years ago.
Can you tell us about Carify's model, that what you're doing specifically and the products you're providing?
So when you look at the entire space of long-term care, they are suffering from multiple inefficiencies. And what I mean by that is that the number one problem all long term care entrepreneurs face on a day to day basis is administrative overhead. The cost of doing a business are astronomical. And as a result, you will see that every year, several of these agencies actually stop doing their businesses. And that is a cause for concern. So my approach towards this software industry was that software industry should not be just for the sake of giving them a software. There should be a measurable outcome. And the outcome should be in the sustainability of care, which was completely different from a pure play of efficiency. Efficiency play is when you use a calculator and replace it by a different tool for doing calculation. That's efficiency. But that's not an outcome. An outcome is when you give a tool to a business provider and they feel that they are successful in improving their compliance, in improving their customer health, and so on and so forth. So we built an entire value chain automation through Carify, which was completely unheard of before we entered the industry.
Got it. And what's your pricing? Like, how much should I pay if I'm a, caregiver per month? Let's say I have my own caregiving business.
So if you have your own business of providing care, we charge you by the number of your clients. So there is no hidden fee. You pay a flat fee, and as you start getting success, then our fee increases based on the number of clients you are serving. And if you are starting out as a startup, we also offer a very attractive startup package so that you are feeling stable within the first 6 months of your operation.
Got it. So it's also it has a bunch of functions. So I'm on the website here. It's about compliance. It's about financial management. It's about scheduling. Why do people go with you first? What feature is the most attractive to them? Is it just bringing a structure to their business? And also, why wouldn't they go with a common tool like, I don't know, a HubSpot CRM, let's say?
I think you hit the nail when you said something about structure. Charles, think like any entrepreneur in any industry vertical. What's the first thing that they fear the most? The uncertainty and the unpredictability of any business, right? So, if you want to fix one problem by hiring one tool, suddenly you find out that you are lacking in another area of the business. What we promise with CaryFy is there's one tool for complete agency automation that you can give to any employee, whether they are doing billing, your marketing, even your compliance management, your documentation, your hiring, your employee, retention, all of those under one umbrella. And that gives not only them a structure, but also a peace of mind that nothing will be overlooked.
Right. And how do you do your marketing, your go-to-market strategy? How do you reach out to your target customers?
So our number one source of revenue is the referrals. So Carify enjoy a very strong referral and the customer satisfaction score. So most of our customers are through our referrals, but we also get some through organic search as well as through our content marketing.
Right. Interesting. And which one of these personas are the most prolific for you? Are these caregivers? Are these consultants or nurses or business owners? Who's your main ICP? Who's buying the most from you?
The ICP is the owner. The entrepreneur is the ideal customer persona. However, everybody else that you mentioned are influencers because the choice to buy is driven by what their caregivers think, what their other employees would think. Would they use this new system? And what we are finding out in many cases, these influencers, when they switch jobs, when they go to work for a different provider, they say, hey, why don't you use Carify?
And let again the price point, does it start at $90 a month? Is it more expensive than that?
Yeah, so it starts at $250 per month. And that includes everything. When I say everything, it basically means you can do your scheduling, billing, your recruiting, as well as compliance, documentation management, all in like one flat fee. And once you get to a certain size, Charles, then you start paying per client, so that we make it very affordable in the big scheme of things.
And why wouldn't they go with like a cheaper solution, a cheaper CRM at like $50 a month? Let's say that they're starting.
If they are studying now, again, let's be real, there are some people who are looking for the cheaper alternatives, and in that case we always educate them for the ROI, because they are, as a matter of fact, there are some free solutions out there too, right? But what they find out soon enough, and we have seen so many customers who have come to us after using a free solution or a $50 solution, is those solutions were turning out to a bigger problem than a solution itself because they were a software tool. And what you do is, if you add up these 5, 7, 8, 10 different tools which don't talk to each other, suddenly you have a major chaos in your industry or in your business.
And how big is that industry? Was your thesis that boomers were retiring and that population, that elderly population, is getting humongous?
That is a one contributing factor, Charles, but there are several other things also at play. So you have seen this emergence of all these individuals who are retiring and would need care of some shape or form during their lifetime at home. So that's the first part. Then you also see after COVID, several healthcare providers, especially nurses, have decided to retire. And they have been burned out with the workplace environment at the hospitals and they want to start their own business. So you also see a lot of young entrepreneurs entering this industry. And
Do you
those two
feel
are influencing factors.
do you feel that most jobs will be freelancer based in the future in this economy?
Well, that's a great question. It's hard to say, Charles, because the economy is turning out to be more unpredictable than we could ever think of a year or two ago, right? And I would not be surprised that if you see more freelancers thinking that, hey, I can do it by myself, why do I work for somebody else?
Right. And I'm also curious about the AI aspect in your platform. Where is AI kicking in?
Everywhere, everywhere. So let me give you some concrete examples. So when we look to serve our customer who are in the long-term care industry, there are multiple areas. Case in point, you know, which caregiver do you want to send to Mr. Smith's home? So who's Mr. Smith? What does he like? What kind of caregivers he doesn't like, and who's available in your pool of caregivers, who's available, who has the temperament, who lives close by. All of those things can be handled very easily by AI compared to a human being making that decision. But again, those decisions are not set in stone. Things change. Weather may turn to be bad. You might have a local transportation strike or something. And then how do you take a corrective action? Again, AI agents can do that faster than a human being can respond to some of those situations. So those are the one place. Another very big place is compliance. When you have these interactions taking place on a day-to-day basis, chances are a human being may overlook some important criteria which is needed for legal compliance, because long-term care is also governed by regulations. AI again steps in and identifies those areas which otherwise would be overlooked by a human being. So AI, as we always believe, is a good sidekick to all these professionals in this space.
Right. And do you see AI is taking care of humans on the long term? Because right now there's ChatGPT. I guess that most elders are not using it as a companion. I wish they would. But also, like in 2 to 3 years, I feel that we're gonna start seeing more bots in the home place in our houses. So where do you see that future going?
Oh, that's a great question, and Charles, I can speak to it for as long as you want me to. But I believe, first of all, models like ChatGPT would not fit that need, because ChatGPT, as you know very well, is based on the knowledge gleaned from the entire universe. Uh, you know, so when a senior is at home and they lost their keys or they think that they are fumbling for their keys, ChatGPT is not going to answer that question, right? If they think that they have lost something, they can't find, they need something which is very local, specific to their domain. If you have a caregiver who's confronted with a very unique situation, that suddenly a client has become unmanageable for some reasons, chat gpt is not going to answer that question, because chat gpt would not know that the client had a high blood sugar level yesterday, or certain vitals went up or down. So what you need is a local implementation of a large language model, any LLM, which is customized and secure, because we have to make sure that we are working within the confines of HIPAA and all other applicable laws as they might be. So they would be needed, and not only for that large language model, Charles, but if I may also add one other point, is multi-modal capabilities, which is you can speak to it, you can chat with it, you can see it, just like we are having a conversation.
Right. How has the business grown in the last couple of years, and what have been the challenges in maintaining that growth?
So we have been going at a very steady clip of nearly 100% year over year. So we are very fortunate with that. We started very small, but now we have become a major player just in the state that we play in as of today. And then we have some plans to expand in 2025. Uh, the challenges, as far as they go, macroeconomic challenges are, what our customers face. And if our customers are facing certain challenges, they also drip down to us. For example, when they are worried about the expansion of business, when they are worried about hiring, when they are worried about some of the reimbursement issues, we also see those challenges trickle down to our business.
Right. And you're mentioning year to year growth and expansion. How do you choose the specific next state in which you're going to expand?
So we tend to follow our customers, Charles. So in our case, what we have found was if our customers are asking us that, hey, I have started to work with you and I have grown in this state, and now I want to open an office in the neighboring state. Case in point, we are in Georgia. Now we are also going to North Carolina and Florida along with our customers. So we take a very measured approach. We don't want to expand into a state just for the sake of expanding. We want to make sure that we understand the nuances of the local regulations because our customers are mostly governed by the state specific regulations. So we need to be very, very thorough and we take those decisions very carefully in terms of where to play.
And is it complicated to expand compliance wise in other states? You need to invest in lawyers. What does it involve?
It's kind of a mixed bag, Charles, because sometimes you do need not necessarily lawyers, but the people who are experts in billing or reimbursement issues. So they are independent consultants whom we consult with in first case. And then in many cases, our customers also bring us, you know, their own learning. So it's a kind of a collaborative exercise. But what we don't want to do is to grow just for the sake of growth.
And do you believe that in these reimbursements and that help should be free? Should it be given to citizens or should they actually pay for that?
Again, it's a kind of a complicated answer because if you think about the big picture, so you can take one position that maybe the care should be paid by the individual who is receiving it or their own family. So that's one part of the puzzle. But the counter argument to that is that if the same person gets admitted to a hospital and then the care is paid for by the state, which is more economical for the state, paying for the hospitalization or paying to prevent the hospitalization. And if you take out the moral or the ethical argument out and just use it from an economical perspective, even the economics of paying for their care at home to prevent hospitalization is far outweighing than the cost of hospitalization, just because, as you know, um,
Right.
health
Yeah,
is
that
a
makes a lot of sense. Tell me about your book, your podcast, because you mentioned that you depend mostly on referrals, but you also have a book, right? You also do speaking gigs. You have a podcast. So how's that been paying off for you?
So again, I've been in this industry and I have a very different look at this industry. So with that, I wrote my Care Manifesto, and it has basically just a very simple 4 points, which I would be happy to summarize. I say 4 points, which is first, care chaos is real. Care is chaotic, and the reason care is chaotic is because of traditionally it has been siloed. And what I mean by that is you are a nurse, so you look after nursing, and somebody is a scheduler, they look after that. They don't talk to each other. Sometimes they ask for the same information twice or three times. So care silo is the main reason, and care silos can be fixed. It can be fixed by changing your thinking, and then I show them a path how to implement that step by step. So that was my premise of writing a care manifesto, and I have been preaching this, I don't know, to hundreds of providers till date. And some of the numbers you have, I think, read from my website too. In my years of advising and working with the long-term care providers, I'm very fortunate to say that not only we have delivered care to a big number of patient population, but also minimize this administrative overhead or the waste that goes into the long-term care. And that is the premise of my book, which is I'm about to complete. I think hopefully should be released in the third quarter of this year, in which I give actual case studies and also step-by-step guide in terms of how to implement.
Right. What are your top goals for the remainder of this year?
Well, of course, I would like the message to reach as many people and wherever they are in the world. if they are in the process of long-term care, if they are receiving care, if a family member is receiving long-term care, or if they are in the business of long-term care, they all should know that care does not have to be chaotic. And there is a way to address that. That's my main goal for the rest of this year. I would like to evangelize this thought as much as I can.
And where can people find out more about you, Anand?
Well, they can certainly visit my website, Charles. I think you might put a link out there, anandchaturvedi.com. They can subscribe to our newsletter, listen to my podcast, and stay connected.
So that was Anand Chaturvedi and Charles Cormier for another